Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Background. My husband came from a poor background, as in he could not attend college because he had to take up a job in our country's defense forces the moment he was 18. I, on the other hand, come from a middle-class family, as in could attend college and even have a master's degree, but nothing super fancy. We were married, arranged marriage, when I was 24 and he was 25. Before our marriage, all my husband's salary went directly to his family. That means 7 years of income, people. A major part of which actually went to his brother-in-law, as he was too special to find a job. Also could not keep one for longer than a year. When I came to my husband's house, my brother-in-law already had 4 children and his wife pregnant with the 5th. My brother-in-law's credit was a mess, as he had taken multiple loans for funding his alcoholic holier-than-thou lifestyle, and my husband was a complete pushover, with no spine of his own to speak up for himself. It took me 2 years and a toddler, blessed with a baby boy, to force him to grow a spine, as now he had a family of his own, and he needed to care for it. I had to make him understand that he can no longer send 90% of our income to his brother and force us to the brink of bankruptcy, as his brother cannot afford his own lifestyle. Slowly and slowly, my husband stopped sending them any money, as his parents had enough income to maintain themselves, and it was high time for his brother to get off his lazy butt and do some stuff. Main story. Now, this is the main event that took place about 5 years ago, when my husband was 30, that forced us to go no contact with my in-laws and a major part of my husband's family. My brother-in-law now had 5 children, blessed with all girls, was on the brink of bankruptcy, and had already used a major part of the inheritance that he was going to be passed down from his parents. This interaction took place on my first 2 nieces' wedding. They had a joint wedding and reception, as brother-in-law didn't have the money for 2 separate weddings. Entitled mother to husband. You should start helping your brother again, as he's having a lot of troubles with funds lately. Husband. We are in a pretty tight spot ourselves, Mom, especially with Ellen, me, pregnant with the 2nd child. Entitled sister-in-law. Well, then you should help your brother even more, as you know what it feels like to be with a pregnant woman. After all, we are also expecting. Me. What? You are pregnant again? My actual words. Entitled mother. What do you mean, daughter-in-law? Aren't you happy? It can actually be a boy this time. Not everyone is as lucky as you who gets a boy on the first chance. Me. Flabbergasted. What the duck are you talking about? I won't treat a daughter any different than a son. Entitled sister-in-law. Well, you can say that since you already have a son. Husband. I don't care about entitled brothers and entitled sister-in-law's lifestyle choices, but I can't share any more money with them, as I have my own family now, and we need to save to buy a house, start son's college fund, etc. Entitled mother. You don't have any right to speak about your brother like that. He is trying to improve. A lie. He also has responsibilities. Me laughing. Right. As if he knows what responsibilities are. Entitled sister-in-law. You be. Her actual words. You dare speak about my husband like that? Everyone was looking at us. She gets into my face and actually tries to punch a very pregnant me. Husband stopping her mid-air. You dare. She is pregnant. And even if she was not, how could you think that you could punch her? Me shocked, plus angry. We shall leave now. I don't think we are welcome in this wedding anymore. Husband follows me without saying another thing. We got many vile and aggressive messages, and even threats from his side of the family on how we spoiled our niece's marriage, and how family always comes first. Fortunately, we had never given my in-laws our address, and even if they could get it somehow, no one would have the money for the plane tickets, as we lived in the geographically opposite corner of the country at that time. Also, we've shifted twice since then, and have blocked out most of his side of the family, leaving out some of his sensible cousins and uncles and aunts, etc., and informed everyone on my side of the family, plus our friends, to maintain absolutely no contact with them. Edits. Here are the answers to a lot of the common questions asked. Yes, I'm from Asia. The 6th child was actually a boy. Thank God, because I don't know how long they would have continued. Well, I actually think OP and her husband are in a great spot. I think they're extremely lucky. Could you imagine being in an arranged marriage where your husband is a pushover and his family takes advantage of him. It sounds like with good communication, OP was able to show her husband how he was being taken advantage of, and he recognizes it and is making the changes necessary for his family. I think OP and her husband should maintain no contact with his family. It's pretty obvious that they only see him as a means to subsidize the brother-in-law's lifestyle. I think OP and her husband have done the right thing, and good on OP for showing her husband the way. And I'm so glad that OP's husband finally grew that shiny spine. What do you guys think? Let's talk about it down in the comments. 32 female diagnosed with breast cancer. I sold my condo a month before I was diagnosed and didn't want to go to my mom's house. My stepmom convinced me to move out of state with them because they had a big house and my dad could take me to chemo. The month that I arrived, my grandma is diagnosed with cancer, so my dad starts flying out of state to visit her. My dad is also not my biological father. He married my mom when I was 3, but has always been in my life. I have no memories without him, and after they divorced, he was always present for everything. So everything is going seemingly fine until the week my dad left to take my grandma to chemo. I brought my 12-year-old dog with me. He's 6 pounds and otherwise well-behaved. I have siblings in the house, 10 and 14, who pile up the trash cans where they overflow, and my dog took toilet paper and ripped it 2 separate times. So instead of telling me, she calls my dad to tell him while he's taking care of my grandma, and he sends me a text the next day saying we need to talk, and that she doesn't feel comfortable talking to me. I was upset because I've known her since I was 12. I've known her for 20 years, and she doesn't feel comfortable talking to me? So I stayed in my room for 2 days with my dog and tried to stay out of her way. My dad flies back in time to take me to chemo. I was at the cancer center for 8 hours getting blood work, pre-medications, and chemo. I get back to the house starving for dinner and heated up some food to eat. She gets home a couple minutes later and storms to her room. I'm talking to my sister, and all I hear is yelling, and I know it's about me. I could hear her saying, "You were with her all day. You don't care about your family." My dad tries to convince me to speak to her, and I say no. After an hour, he gets her to come out, and she's yelling and throwing things, saying she's going to take the kids and leave. That he only cares about me and no one else. That I'm just a stranger and I'm not even blood related. That I disrespected her by not talking to her for 2 days. That I'm always negative because I have cancer, and whenever she asks me how I'm doing, it's never positive. My dad just stood there and said nothing. When she was finished, he offered me a hotel. I grabbed my stuff and my dog and drove 2 hours to my aunt's house after chemo. Next day, they both texted me. I wanted to move forward for my dad and the kids. I apologized for disrespecting her. She said she meant everything. I moved out as it was toxic and continued my chemo with the help of my aunt and boyfriend. We pretended to go back to normal. My last chemo was December 22nd, and my double mastectomy was January 23rd. A month after surgery, my dad tells me she's disappointed in me because I didn't call her for Christmas or for her birthday, January 21st. I told him he was being unfair and unreasonable, that he was biased and would go along with whatever she said. I was sick from chemo on Christmas, in bed fighting for my life, and in January, preparing for the biggest surgery of my life. I wasn't thinking about her. She was the last thing on my mind. He wanted me to apologize to her for not reaching out, and I said no. I want nothing to do with her, and I never want to see her again. Am I the a-hole? She doesn't want OP in her life. Her complaints about OP not calling are just a way to justify her throwing OP out. OP has no reason to apologize, and no reason to ever see or talk to her again. If OP's dad wants to maintain contact with OP, then great. He can do it with phone calls and occasionally meeting up for a restaurant meal or coffee. But he also failed OP massively. He should have stood by OP in her time of need, so I wouldn't blame OP if she decides going no contact with him. Not the a-hole. Your stepmom's behavior seems really unfair and unsupportive, especially considering everything you're going through. It's understandable that you'd want to distance yourself from someone who's adding stress to an already challenging situation. I would cut off her and your dad. Disgusting behavior. You didn't owe her an apology. What she and your dad did is unforgivable. Your dog ripping up toilet paper is nothing, but her complaining about your cancer is deeply screwed up. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your stepmom is evil, and the only thing she wants is attention. She wants to be the main actor in this sad story. If my daughter would fight for her life, then the only thing in my mind would be how can I help her, and not to force her to apologize for her evil and crappy stepmom. Cut both out of your life. You don't need two a-holes who are not supporting you through dark times. Your dad just confirmed that he will stick to her side, even when you are pretty ill. I don't really know if your stepmom or your dad is the biggest a-hole. I think both of them are fighting for this place. I wish you all the best, and hopefully you will get better soon. Stay strong. I am Indian. We refer to our cousins' children as niece and nephew in our culture. I, 26 female, have 4 aunts. My aunts all have grown children in their 40s plus. About 15 years ago, my parents divorced. Might seem like no big deal, but this is extremely taboo in our culture, especially 15 years ago. Everyone in our community was gossiping about it. I remember walking to school one day, and 2 grown men walking ahead of me were talking about how evil my mom was for leaving my deadbeat dad. 3 of my aunts live outside of the country. 1 of them live in the same city. My mom helped them immigrate here in the early 2000s. My aunt who lives here has 2 adult children, and one of her children, Crystal, 40-something, has 2 children herself, a 16 male and 22 female. My cousin Crystal, along with my aunt, were not really there for us while growing up. My mom was a single parent working 12 to 16-hour days, 6 days a week, and had no support from anyone. In our culture, generally aunts and uncles help raise children. It's very much so like a village. However, my mom had no help. Every time she asked for help or babysitting or anything, never money, they would have a million excuses on why they couldn't help. They both stayed at home full-time, never had any job. They treated us poorly growing up, with my sister and I always the butt of the joke because we were the fatherless girls with no family. My childhood was very lonely, and nothing like the childhood my friends from the same background and culture had. It made me sad when I was younger, but I got over it as I got older. Present day. I don't have a relationship with Crystal, her children, or my aunt. My mom still has a relationship with them. They see each other a few times a year and talk on the phone every week or two. I work for the government, and the area of government I work in is very hard to get into. There's a lot of nepotism, and positions generally go to those who know someone that works there. I joined during a busy time and took a job at the very bottom, and have worked up to more senior roles, and now make over 6 figures. Crystal's daughter, Emma, recently applied to work at my job, and in her application indicated she knew me and I referred her. When asked by our talent department, I said I didn't know her and did not refer her. I don't know Emma. I haven't seen her since pre-virus. I guess since Emma lied on her application, she will no longer be considered for any government roles. News got back to Crystal, and she was incredibly angry that I banned her daughter, aka my niece, from working in government, and is going around telling other family members how could I do that to them after their family has done so much for us. I don't think I did anything wrong, but some family members said I should have just gone with it and said I referred Emma because that's just what family does. Am I the a-hole for getting my niece disqualified from a job? Emma should have reached out first and asked if she could use OP as a reference. This is what you do when you actually know someone. If it's not such a big deal, why didn't she reach out to OP first? In my view, her dumb actions banned herself from those jobs. But I also wonder, didn't OP lie as well saying that she doesn't know her? Because she actually knows her as she is her cousin. So she should have said that she knows her, but hasn't seen her for a long time and didn't refer her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. I'd send a short text or message to anyone who says anything. Emma never reached out to me to ask for a reference, and I haven't seen them for years. I will not use my status for someone who didn't even reach out first. Furthermore, none of their family ever did anything for mine after the divorce. Lose my number, then block them. Not the a-hole. Why did she lie on the application? That was her first big mistake. You didn't recommend her, and you don't have to back up a liar, even if they are family. Why risk your reputation and job position? You're the a-hole. You do know her. You just aren't close to her. That would have been a better representation. You lied that you didn't know her. Plus, Emma isn't the one who mistreated you. Her mom did. You were taking your displeasure of Crystal out on Emma, who is innocent. I get your anger. I'm the child of a single mother whose father was no good. But what you did was crappy. When I, 20 male, was like 10, my parents got divorced. My mother, 50 female, immediately shacked up with her affair partner, which I didn't know at that time. My father, 50 male, is a stoic man, but I could see sadness in his eyes when I went to live with my mother and her affair partner. She married him later. I recently found out about the affair from my dad. He said he wanted me to know about it since I'm old enough to know now, and I'm thankful. I confronted my mom, and her husband tried to intervene. I told him not to open his disgusting mouth in front of me. So he let us alone. And I asked my mother how she would feel if my wife cheated on me, then married the guy she cheated with, and make my kids go in the same home as him. She didn't have an answer. She kept repeating that she was sorry. I told her to divorce and never see him again, or I will never talk to her ever again. I basically asked her to choose between her husband and me. I had given her a month, and all I heard was excuses. She told me she was too old to start over. She told me that she will do anything else, etc., etc. I called her a week ago and asked her whether she was getting a divorce. She didn't say yes, so I blocked her. She is out of my life. She did try to come to my apartment, but thankfully my roommates told her to get the hell out. My roommates are now forcing me to think it through, and I don't have anything to say. I gave her a simple choice. She chose him over me, like she chose him over my father. That's who she is. That's who she will always be. Although I completely understand how you feel, I think you're kind of being the a-hole here. Hear me out. You are completely within your right to not speak to your mom, and it's okay to be angry. But you can't expect to just suddenly tell your mom to get a divorce out of the blue, and she just jumps on it. She was absolutely wrong for the affair, but what's done is done. It can't define your entire relationship with your mother forever. You are an adult and don't even live at home anymore, so it's not like she's forcing you to live there. At this point, this is her life. You are not asking her to get a divorce for any other reason except to punish her because you're understandably angry. A divorce isn't going to solve or fix anything at this point. Regardless of what Reddit says, life is rarely black and white answers. You are not your father. You are not married to your mother. I think you gave a very silly ultimatum. Sorry, but everyone sucks here. I mean, if someone had asked you the day before your dad told you whether she'd been a good mom, what would your answer have been? If your answer would have been yes, then maybe you want to leave the door open to a future relationship. If no, then maybe not. But it's unreasonable to expect someone to end a 10-year relationship, even one that began as an affair, because an adult child is mad.